So we're on page 10 of those notes now, and I'll say we're going to solve equations. Again, this is going to be very similar to the notes from the other day. One of the things I like to have in mind for this chapter is all those perfect squares, so I'll typically write them down at the top of my page. I don't usually include 0 and 1, but they are perfect squares, so I just want to say that every chance I get, so you do know that they actually are considered to be perfect squares, and they are square rootable. But the ones we usually care about are the 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4. I just want to keep these numbers in mind when I'm working on quadratics because these are numbers that do come out nicely, and it's important to know when numbers come out nicely and when they don't. So these are the ones that I can square root, and it'll come out nice and pretty. And if it's not one of these numbers, it ain't going to be pretty. The only difference is now, occasionally when we square root, we might be square rooting a negative number, and that whole I thing will come into play. So when I'm solving, it's always the case when I only have one kind of x in the problem that we're going to do PEMDAS in reverse. We're doing order of operations in reverse. We are imagining a big brick wall on the equal sign, and we want to get this x to be all by itself by undoing everything that was done to it in the opposite order. So we're doing the opposite stuff in the opposite order. So I'm starting down here. I'm looking at this side of the equation, and I'm saying to myself, is there anything that was added or subtracted that I had to get rid of? And of course, I can see I've got to subtract a 16 from both sides. Yep, that goes away. I did that. Left side becomes x squared equals to negative 16. Whoops. I will ask myself on this side, is there anything to multiply or divide? There isn't anything that was multiplied or divided, so I don't need to worry about that. I need to think about it, but there's nothing to do. And now the exponent, that squared is an exponent, and the opposite of an exponent, or at least the opposite of squaring, is square rooting, right? Addition has subtraction, they undo each other. Multiplication has division, they undo each other. And squaring and square rooting, they undo each other. So I'm going to go ahead and square root this side to get rid of the squared, and I'll square root the other side as well. And unlike last time, what I'm square rooting is negative. So, 2 days ago we would have said, can't do this problem. Now we'll say, I'm going to imagine that I can do this problem. If it were just a 16, that's on my list here. I know the square root of 16 is 4, but it's negative, so I'm just imagining I can do it, so I'm going to tack an I on there. And of course, as the person solving the problem, I put the square root in there, so I'm going to have to also include a plus or minus. Anytime that I'm the one who put the square root in solving the problem, I want to include a plus or minus. That's my final answer. It's difficult to use a calculator to check that answer, so you really have to rely on these steps. Got rid of the exponent. X is all by itself. I'm all done. I'm going to do the same exact thing for this example over here. If you want to pause the video and try ahead of me a little bit, go ahead and do that. I'm going to follow these same steps backwards because there's just one x by itself. So go ahead and pause while I do this. Thank you for unpausing me. If you pause me, we're going to start down here, looking at this side, and we're going to say, is there anything on this side that needs to be added or subtracted? Yes, there's a 1 here that's being added. Let me subtract it. 7 minus 1 makes 6. This side is negative 3x squared. I'm going to move up the ladder. Is there anything on this side I need to multiply or divide? Yes. This is being multiplied by negative 3, so I will divide by negative 3. Divide by negative 3. These will knock each other out. This will become x squared. 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. I took care of this. I'm going to move up the ladder. Is there anything on this side? Are there any exponents? Yes, there's a squared. And the way to get rid of a square is to square root. So I'll square root. And I'll square root. So because I put the square root in there as a person solving the problem, I got to put plus or minus. Unfortunately, 2 is not in my list. There's not a number that multiplies by itself to make 2. But I can't leave that negative in there either. So what I'm going to do is put the root 2 still under the square root, because I can't write down what that is, and I'm going to tack an I on there. And you can put the I here, or you can put the I here. I like to put the I here. So for me, I would write the answer like this, but if you want to write it like this, that's okay too. The only thing, like, it doesn't make a difference. They're both equally correct. The one thing I would warn you against is if you try to write the answer like this and you're sloppy, like if somebody writes it like this, whoopsie doodles, that's definitely wrong. If someone writes it like this, that's that would be technically wrong, because it looks like that I is underneath the square root symbol, and it should not be. It should not be. So if you're going to put the I after the radical, maybe make sure that you put this little like thing on it here so people know where your radical ends, or definitely make it so that like that I is clearly not underneath the radical. Otherwise, if you get a really picky teacher who's kind of having a bad day, they'll take off points. Of course, the whole thing is avoided by putting the I in front. I hope that helps. We'll do the last two examples in another video. Again, office hours, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 3 to 3:30. If you ever pop in there and it seems like it's empty, shoot me an IM. Sometimes once or twice I might click on the wrong link. Who knows? You know, maybe I'm getting involved in what I'm doing, but I'm always at my computer. I'm always here to help. I'm almost always in office hours. I'm definitely supposed to be. Email me, IM me, if I'm not there and you show up. Yeah.